Have you ever had one of those days? The kind of day where everything you touch seems to crumble. You burn the toast. You're late for a meeting. A project you poured your heart into gets a lukewarm reception, or maybe even fails completely. That feeling, it's heavy, isn't it? It's more than just disappointment. It's a cold, hard knot that tightens in your stomach. A voice in your head that starts whispering, and then shouting, that you're not good enough. This is the sting of failure. It feels personal. It feels final. We live in a world that glorifies success. We see highlight reels on social media, stories of overnight success, and people who seem to have it all figured out. And in that context, our own stumbles and falls can feel like a public branding, a scarlet letter that marks us as flawed or incompetent. We start to believe that the mistake isn't just something we did, but something we are. But what if I told you that our entire understanding of failure is fundamentally wrong? What if failure isn't the opposite of success, but an essential, unavoidable, and even beautiful part of the journey toward it? There's a piece of ancient wisdom, found in the book of Proverbs, that captures this idea perfectly. It says, "For though the righteous fall 7 times, they rise again." Let's unpack that for a moment. Notice it doesn't say the righteous never fall. It doesn't promise a life free from error or hardship. In fact, it assumes falling is part of the deal. 7, in this context, is a symbolic number. It means, many times, repeatedly, over and over again. The measure of a person, according to this wisdom, isn't their ability to avoid falling. It's their commitment to rising again. Every single time. So, how do we do that? How do we get back up when the weight of failure is pinning us to the ground? First, we have to understand why failure hurts so much. Our brains are wired for survival, and in a social context, acceptance and competence are forms of survival. When we fail, especially publicly, it can trigger a deep-seated fear of rejection or ostracism. Our ego takes a hit. The story we tell ourselves about who we are, competent, smart, capable, is suddenly challenged. Failure creates a narrative crisis. And society often reinforces this. We talk about winners and losers. We shame mistakes. This creates a culture where people become terrified of trying anything new, because the potential cost of failure feels too high. But look at any significant achievement in human history. It is built on a mountain of failures. Scientists don't call a null hypothesis a failure, they call it data. It's information that guides them toward the right answer. Thomas Edison famously said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." A baby learning to walk doesn't fall once and decide that walking isn't for them. They fall, they cry, they get confused, but they keep trying to get up. They are a perfect example of Proverbs chapter 24 verse 16 in action. They fall, and they rise again. The first step in learning to rise is to redefine what a fall actually is. Failure is not a verdict on your worth. It is an event. It is a data point. It is a lesson wrapped in a rough package. When you experience a setback, the most important thing you can do is to separate your identity from the outcome. Instead of saying, "I am a failure," try saying, "I experienced a failure," or, "This project failed." See the difference? One is a permanent state of being. The other is a temporary event in time. One is a label you staple to your soul. The other is an observation you can learn from. This simple shift in language is incredibly powerful. It gives you the distance you need to analyze what happened without being consumed by shame. So, you've had a fall. You've made a mistake. What's the practical process for getting back up? The first step is to allow yourself to feel it. This might sound counterintuitive. We're often told to just get over it, or be positive. But toxic positivity is just another form of denial. Your feelings of disappointment, frustration, or sadness are valid. They are the natural human response to a setback. Acknowledge them. Sit with them for a moment. Give them a name. By giving yourself permission to feel the sting, you're actually processing the emotion instead of bottling it up where it can fester and grow. Just don't build a house and move into that feeling. Visit, don't live there. Once you've acknowledged the emotion, the next step is investigation without judgment. Become a detective of your own experience. Ask yourself some gentle, curious questions. What exactly happened here? What were the factors that led to this outcome? What was within my control, and what wasn't? What did I learn about the process? What did I learn about myself? If I were to face this exact same situation again, what is one thing, just one, I would do differently? The goal here isn't to blame yourself. The goal is to extract the lesson. Every failure contains a seed of wisdom. Your job is to find it, water it, and let it grow. Maybe you learn that you need to manage your time better. Maybe you learn that you need to ask for help sooner. Maybe you learn that a particular strategy simply doesn't work, and you need a new one. This is not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of intelligence and adaptability. This is the rising again in action. It's not a magical leap back to your feet, it's a conscious, deliberate process of learning and adjusting. Let's think about an athlete. When a star basketball player misses the game-winning shot, what happens next? They don't just quit basketball. Their coach doesn't say, "Well, you're a failure, you're off the team." No, they go back and review the game tape. They analyze the player's footing, their form, the defensive pressure. They break down the moment of failure into a dozen tiny, manageable pieces. And then, they practice. They practice that same shot hundreds, even thousands of times, making tiny adjustments until it becomes muscle memory. They take the data from their failure and use it to fuel their future success. We need to become the coaches of our own lives. We need to review our own game tape with the same objective, improvement-focused mindset. After you've found the lesson, the next, crucial step is to take one small, forward action. Action is the antidote to despair. After a failure, it's easy to become paralyzed by fear and self-doubt. The thought of trying again can be overwhelming. So don't try to conquer the whole mountain at once. Just take one single step. If you failed at a new fitness routine, don't try to do the whole thing again tomorrow. Just put on your workout clothes. That's it. That's the win for the day. If a presentation didn't go well, don't try to rewrite the entire thing. Just open a new document and write a single bullet point for a new opening line. This small, concrete action proves to your brain that you are not defeated. It breaks the cycle of rumination and inertia. It starts building momentum, no matter how small. This is how you build true, lasting resilience. Resilience isn't some magical trait you're born with. It's a muscle you build. And every time you fall and choose to rise, you're doing another representative. Every time you choose to analyze a mistake instead of letting it define you, you're getting stronger. Every time you choose compassion for yourself over criticism, you're becoming more durable. This brings us to one of the most important tools in overcoming failure: self-compassion. Think about how you would treat a good friend who just experienced a major setback. You probably wouldn't call them a loser. You wouldn't tell them they should just give up. You'd likely approach them with kindness. You'd remind them of their strengths. You'd tell them that this one event doesn't define them, and that you believe in them. Why is it so hard to offer that same grace to ourselves? Treating yourself with self-compassion isn't about making excuses. It's about creating the psychological safety needed to take risks and learn. When you know that a mistake won't be met with a brutal internal attack, you're more likely to try complex and challenging things, the very things that lead to growth and success. The world will provide plenty of critics. You don't need to be the harshest one. As you practice this cycle, fall, feel, investigate, learn, and act, something incredible begins to happen. Your relationship with failure starts to change. The fear doesn't necessarily disappear completely, but it loses its power over you. It's no longer a terrifying monster in the dark. It becomes a familiar, even welcome, signal that you are pushing your boundaries. You start to understand that if you're not failing every now and then, you're probably not trying hard enough. You're playing it too safe. You're staying in your comfort zone, where true growth is impossible. Failure becomes the price of admission for a life of purpose, growth, and achievement. Think back to that proverb one last time. For though the righteous fall 7 times, they rise again. The emphasis is on the verb rise. It's an action, a choice, a declaration. It's dusting yourself off when you're covered in grime. It's taking a deep breath when your lungs are burning. It's taking one more step when your legs are shaking. Life is not about building a fortress to prevent yourself from ever falling. That's a life lived in a very small, very boring room. A meaningful life is about developing the strength, the wisdom, and the courage to get back up, no matter how many times you find yourself on the ground. Because the fall is just a moment. But the rising? That's who you become.